Yo, what's good? It's your homeboy T-Pain. Right now, at this very exact moment, you plugged in with Jay.
Plugged in with Jay right now. This is Jay O'Man.
Turn up.
My boy Jay Perry.
You're listening to my boy, Jay the Plug.
My boy, Jay the Plug.
You're listening to my boy, Jay the Plug.
You're listening to my boy, Jay the Plug.
You're listening to my boy, Jay the Plug.
Jay the Plug.
You got many winners from many moons. You're listening to my boy, Jay the Plug.
Get plugged up, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of Plugged In with Jay via the Fantasy Football Charity League that my buddy Justin and I started, the Pace League. We wanted to get a Mr. Scott Fish on the show. Welcome, Scott. How are you, bud?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. I'd say it's our pleasure, but Justin's out doing the military thing, so he'll be back soon. So we'll have to have you back on whenever he's here because that guy comes up with some pretty amazing questions, man. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But we'll get this going. I know you are a busy man. I got to say right off the bat, I see all the pops in the background. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think they had a little personality to the background there.
I see that.
French paintings, and then you got the Doctor Who stuff, the Harry Potter stuff, some Wonder Woman and Ron Swanson, and it's a collection of some of them. Yeah,
I love it. I see right behind you there's one between two, looks like crystal skull. Are those, what are those? What am I looking at there?
Oh, those are my two FSGA awards, and then that's a Funko of me.
I was gonna say, I see you between those two awards. I wanted to bring attention to those. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a good eye. I thought that was behind my head usually. So
I saw it when you adjusted yourself real quick. So I wanted to bring that up. And we will get to those awards here in just a minute. Scott Fish, creator of probably one of the, if not the best known fantasy football league, the Scott Fish Bowl. Very well renowned in the fantasy football community. First off, thanks so much for inviting me into SFB 11. Much appreciated,
of course,
man.
Of course, I'm glad you could play.
Yeah, it was a blast. I tried to make sure I set every single week. I set my lineups and everything. Which, man, how many people did you have in that league this year?
1,909. 1,920 in the league, and then another 2,500 in satellites. It was crazy.
Yeah, man, that's what the largest pro-am league ever.
Yep, pretty much. It's giant. It's all for good though, so it's fun to get that many people behind it and supporting it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really cool. I was amazed whenever you sent the invite, or whenever they sent the invite, excuse me, I'm sure it wasn't just from you personally, but
no, it was actually from me personally. Yes, I send every invite personally.
Man,
I know.
I feel super special. When I was looking into the league, I was like, holy, I've always heard about it. And I read about it before, and then actually being in it, I wanted to make sure I put my best foot forward to try and win it. But I was, oh my God, I saw how many you had. It was what was it? The topic, or it was music. It was
the topic was music. The theme was music this year. Yeah.
Theme, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yes.
So I was in the weekend, I believe.
Okay.
And had some pretty nice competition in that. But who won the whole thing this season? I know Stefania Bell was way up there.
Yeah, there was a guy, I believe his name was Jason Seaborn. Isaac Seaborn. Sorry, I'm like, my brain is going to Jason Seahorn for some reason. Isaac, you can tell I'm old now. Isaac Seaborn. He was a fan entry that won it, which is pretty awesome. We've only had, I think he's the third or fourth fan entry in 11 years to win it. So that's pretty cool.
Wow, man, that's awesome. And with this, you wanted to generate like what, one entry or one donation per entry or per.
Yeah, we try to, like, I tell people, I guess over the last few years, I've really moved to the part where I'm like, all right, donate wherever you want. Just donate to something you're passionate about. Let's just spread that mentality through our hobby, Sure. Let's use our hobby for good. But we do have a potathon during the summer, like during the drafts and stuff, that we raise money for our toy drive, our Toys for Tots toy drive and whatnot.
Oh, excellent. Okay. And do you, I always wanted to add, do you kind of have an idea of an approximation of how much you've actually been able to raise for charity?
Oh, no way. I mean, for on our end, probably this year it was in the low to mid 70s, 70,000 for
Wow.
our drives. But then we had like Matthew Berry came in and like he raised an additional 12,000 for the V Foundation. And then we had different aspects of what we do, raise money for other charities and people just donating to charities that had nothing to do with us. I'm sure it's well over $100,000 worth of charitable donations were made for various charities because of the fishbowl.
For sure. That's awesome, man. I love it. We, Justin and I started the Pace League for charity where we had, some guys in there everybody had a different foundation and whomever won, their foundation would get the pot, which along the way, made sure everybody got some, got a little piece of something. Cause that's the main thing. I've kind of realized that's what I want to do is kind of get into what you're doing as a charity thing. And I love everything you're doing, man. I love it.
That's
do
awesome.
You already have a theme for SFB 12?
I don't. I've toyed with several of them. It's one of those things where there's so many divisions that I need something that's like a broad enough topic where you can make that many divisions. Like music was fine for that. Sure. Toys is fine for that, but it's not easy. There are a few out there that we thought of, but we haven't settled on anything. I haven't settled on anything. I don't do that till about April.
Okay, yeah. With Matthew Berry being a big proponent of everything, I mean, do like a Disney character or something like that. Like,
we did have a Disney year already.
You already did. Crap.
Yeah, it was SFB 7. So
okay.
We haven't had a redo on any of the previous themes, but that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I want to try and not redo them. I'll take a closer look and see if I can figure something out, man.
It was many years ago. It was a long time ago.
Now, you have received many awards as per the two that are right behind you, encasing the awesome Funko Pop that you have made of yourself.
Yeah,
I've got to figure out where you got.
Technically, it was given as a gift. So hey. I didn't go make it myself, but yes, it's pretty cool.
Either way, it's pretty dope. But the fact that it's a gift is even cooler. Now, including the Athletic Persons of the Year in 2018, you were alongside Pat Mahomes, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald. Yep. Big names, man. That's awesome. You ever think that you would have been put into a category with any of those guys?
Never. And I haven't talked to any of those people since. I didn't even talk to him then because it was an online, like it wasn't, we didn't actually meet, but no, I never thought I'd be in a category with any of them.
That's
that was pretty special when it happened. I think that was the first one that really came by, the first award that came by. So for me, that was pretty special.
Yeah, you got the Sports and Gaming Humanitarian of the Year Award 2019, Matthew Berry's Game Changer Award 2021. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost. I mean, you're almost going to run out of room on the mantle there. Do you have anyone that you're most proud of?
Any of those three awards? Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't know which. I don't think there's one that I'm most proud of. I think each one that comes along, I feel more and more proud of the next one that happens. So the most recent one usually feels like it, but I'm just happy that, even though my name's on them, like, I feel like these are community awards. Like, I feel like all of those don't happen if the whole community doesn't change their mindset and go, you know what, this is a fun hobby that we can do a lot of good with. And the community got behind it and supported it. I feel like they're community awards and they're not just for me.
Man, probably the most political and awesome answer. You're such a good dude. You dedicate all of them to the community. It's like, man, like take some credit, Scott. Be like, yeah, you know what? This is mine.
I help I organize the stuff, but like I said, I mean, none of it works. Like, nothing works on a football field if everybody doesn't, work together, right? Like, so 100%. None of this works if everybody doesn't work together.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, as stated before, you do so much for the fantasy football community, which, again, we cannot, as a fantasy football community, thank you enough for. Tell us about Safe Leagues.
Yeah, it's just a commissioner service I run. It's legal fantasy leagues, like public fantasy leagues. They're a legal contest operator. They're legal in 42 states in Canada, and we have a bunch of dynasty leagues. We do some redraft leagues. We do some special, fun, interesting leagues. But you can, join startup drafts, pick up orphans, or available teams in dynasty leagues. It's just a place to go find public leagues to play in if you don't have 11 friends that want to join a league with you, or you're the type that wants to join a bunch of leagues and your friends only want to join one, so
Yeah.
it's just a nice public place that's legal and regulated, and so everything is completely safe and above board.
Sure. Where can anybody go take a look at that if they're looking to join a couple leagues?
Yes, safeleagues.com. It's
That's
easy as
simple.
that. We generally start the new leagues like early March, and we'll have available teams in existing leagues coming up within a week or so.
Excellent. Now, being one of the biggest names in fantasy football, I'm sure you're asked to be in so many leagues. How many were you in this past season?
It's shockingly low number, only about 10. I used to do about 35 different leagues where you set lineups, do waivers and everything. And I have basically switched that down to about 10 leagues where you set lineups, and then another 10 or so that are best ball with, so when people invite me to those like best ball leagues, like that are with a bunch of analysts or whatever, I'll say yes about half the time. But the set lineups one, I'm a little more guarded nowadays.
Yeah, I got you. We were thinking about turning the Pace League into a best ball league.
Yeah.
Just because it'll be a little bit easier, because we got guys like T-Pain and Darren Waller and so who are a little bit busy.
Yes. Yeah.
Figured it might just be a little bit easier for us that way, and a little bit fun. I've never been in a best ball league though, so I've always wanted to try it, because just to be able to kind of basically set it and forget it, I'm all in.
We'll have to get you in one this year.
Yeah. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer standard, PPR, IDP, best ball? What's your?
I prefer your basic PPR. Well, not even PPR. I prefer half. But I need some form of that. But just your regular set lineups, waivers, etc. League. I like best ball a lot less, but I'm willing to do it because it's so little work, But I like I just got done with my 30th year playing fantasy football. I'm kind of old school. I like your basic head-to-head, set lineups, regular league.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm a full PPR guy, but I've been in a couple of half PPR. It's not a huge difference. Who was a player this season that you had to go after? Now, I know it's kind of hard to answer that question because it depends on where you drafted, but who was a player that whenever you were set out to draft, that you had your sights on, that you really had to go for?
Yeah. So I'm a tight end early guy. So I was finding myself, and even though it didn't work out because of the touchdowns, I found myself grabbing Andrews, Hawkinson, and Pitts around like that third round a ton, because I couldn't pay up for the first round, second round tight ends. But man, I was loving those guys. I think one of my favorite calls this offseason was I went on Fantasy Pros podcast. I'm like, Cooper Kupp's going to be awesome. And I kept telling them that they were too low on him. I did not think he would do this, but I got Cooper Kupp in so many leagues because I was all in on the Matthew Stafford had targeted the heck out of Galladay and Calvin Johnson, and I figured he'd be his whoopee. I never thought this though, but I loved getting him in a bunch. I'm trying to think of guys that I got in a ton of leagues. I got a lot of Gronk late because I feel like people had almost given up on him a little. Right. So you can tell I'm a tight end guy.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I wanted Justin Jefferson everywhere, but that wasn't feasible because everybody was loving him.
Yeah, they were drafting him high, man. Yeah, I got Cooper Kupp in a couple leagues too. I think the latest I got to draft him in one league was 6th round.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got Deebo Samuel in the 12th. Everybody went Ayuk earlier, so yeah, I had both of them as my wide receiver 1 and 2. It was a good season.
One I got a lot of places that I was high in. I thought Antonio Brown would be the best Tampa Bay receiver this year.
Right.
And for the first 6 weeks, that looked great. So I got him everywhere. And then I wanted to give one that didn't really work out for me too.
Yeah, I had a couple of those. So now that the season is over, what is going to be your strategy next season whenever you're drafting? Not trying to give away any of your secrets or anything like that, so you can totally lie if you want to.
No. it's part of being in this industry, right? You give your best. You tell everybody your best, and then
Right.
when you're in leagues with people, you just try to beat them anyway.
Yeah.
you give the real info because you want to help people out there.
Right, exactly.
I don't change my strategy much from year to year. I generally go with whatever I feel is the safest, most best available player in the first couple of rounds. And I'm usually grabbing, even though this year was a bad year for running back injuries, I usually grab a stud running back in the first 2 rounds.
Sure.
Maybe 2 if they're there, but it's usually 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. And then I try to get one of those early tight ends. I feel like having a top 5 tight end is just a cheat code with how bad the bottom half of the top 12 usually is. So that's generally how I start my drafts.
Yeah, I agree. I try to go running back heavy if I can, because it's a lot less, like, you've got so many wide receivers out there that are like,
yes,
it's a very deep position.
Yeah.
Running back doesn't seem as deep. And then I try to go for a top tight end the same way, because you get a top tight end, like one of the top 5, there's nobody's going to touch him after that.
Exactly.
So like anybody who got Andrews this year, they definitely made out like a bandit for sure. But yeah,
I do think wide receivers are easier to match up play during the season. Like,
right.
Exactly. At least for me, I know some people feel differently, but at least for me, wide receivers are easier to look at a matchup and be like, this is a good spot for that guy.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because like a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like he blew up later in the season. I kept preaching for him beforehand.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, yeah, you missed on that one. And then boom, he blew up. I'm like, oh.
Exactly. Same path. I think there are a few of us in that boat that felt the pain for a while.
We mentioned Cooper Kupp earlier. That's my fantasy MVP, but for the 2021 season, who would you consider your fantasy football MVP?
It's probably got to be Kupp. I mean, I would put Jonathan Taylor right there just because there's so many running back injuries, and it was if you had one of those running backs go down, it was a lot tougher to replace.
Right.
But those are 1A and 1B. I'm definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Cooper Kupp's had 1 game below 92 yards. Like one.
That was insane.
So
insane. He averaged 25, 26 points per game.
Yeah, you can't. That consistency is just, it's too much to turn down. Is that's definitely the MVP. Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be? The one word that I hate in this business is regression. I hate that word. Look, if you're gonna regress from 25 to 20 points a game, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think the kind of regression might be whenever Woods comes back?
He was doing it with Woods on the field too, right? Like, I don't know that there's going to be a ton of regression. I think the bigger regression comes from OBJ and Van Jefferson. Maybe all 4 of them split a little more time because they can. Sure. They could have more rest, more snaps off. Save each other from the very long season. I can see. I mean, you almost have to predict regression. You almost have to with what he did this year. Like what he did is basically never been done. Right. But I don't think it'll be a lot. I think he's still going to be Stafford's main guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give Stafford a second year in that offense too.
No kidding, man. Hopefully he can get those interceptions under control, which I think he will. He just started humming the ball just because he wanted to make big plays. They're going to keep going. I think they're going to be one of the teams that get into the Super Bowl. I really do.
Yeah. I can see that. If
you have the number 1 overall draft pick, who's your guy?
Next year, it's Jonathan Taylor for the reasons we kind of mentioned. I just feel like if I can get a stud running back and if he doesn't get injured, he's just a stud all year. It's too much of a good thing. I can get wide receivers on that second turn because I'm drafting on that second turn. I know this didn't work out amazing because of AJ Brown, but I got Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown on that second turn in 2 different leagues this last year. There are wide receivers on that second turn.
Yeah, there are very strong wide receivers coming back in the second round for sure. Now, you say Jonathan Taylor real quick. My guy is I'm a coin flip between Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry.
Okay.
Derrick Henry to me, because Jonathan Taylor, he's not catching a whole lot of balls out of the backfield. Granted, right. I would say that he has the better ability, but Henry has been he started catching the ball. They started throwing him the ball a lot.
They
out
don't
of the
need
backfield.
Taylor too with Hines there. That's
yeah,
the thing.
and look at the way that Henry was still 6th overall in rushing yards.
It's unreal.
And he's out since week 8, so it's tough.
Yeah.
But Jonathan,
I have no
Taylor's-
problem with it.
Yeah, yeah, and Jonathan, I have no issue with Jonathan Taylor because Jonathan Taylor, I mean, that guy's shown that he can take the workload and be just fine. He did it in college too.
Yep.
So let's see. Fun questions. If you could choose any player to have as a co-host on a show, any player, whether they're playing or not, who do you think you would choose?
Oh man. Wow. There's a lot of fun ones this could be. The ones that come right to mind are like Austin Eckler, because he's like big into fantasy and very, very cool about fantasy. Then there's AJ Dillon, who I played in the league with AJ Dillon this year, and he was very cool. But I think the one that my mind goes straight to is probably George Kittle, because not only is he cool with fantasy, like he just seems like a wild dude that would say some wild things. So like
answer.
He's good on both sides of that coin.
Great answer, man. George Kittle didn't even come to mind. I was thinking Eckler. Then I thought the crazy part of AB, but Antonio Brown, you might as well just sit in the background and be quiet and talk. Do you have any draft day traditions?
Well, yeah, I suppose my home league is the one that's been running for 30 years that just had our 30th season. Yeah. We take a Saturday off and everybody comes over and we start early. We make pancakes on the grill outside, and then we like do burgers and all that kind of stuff later. Like we make a full day of it, have drinks. We have no timer on the picks. Like we just, we don't get ridiculous, but we just let them happen as they happen over the course of, several hours. And if people are dealing with trying to make trades during the draft, it is what it is. But it's a full day, just hang out and just with, a dozen guys. It's pretty fun. Well, there are a couple girls, but you know what I meant. I didn't.
That's awesome.
I meant gender neutral when I say guys.
Yeah.
A dozen people.
Politically correct Scott Fish. You're good. That's okay. So pancakes out on the grill outside, which sounds amazing. Actually, I don't know. I've never had pancakes made outside on a grill, but it just sounds like it'd be amazing.
Yeah, it makes pancakes and waffles for us. One of the owners.
Shut us down. I'd be done. You'd put me to sleep. I'd eat a couple waffles and then I'd be passed out. Do you have any different ideas of deciding draft order? That's something that I try and make really interesting for my home league every year, because being the commissioner, I've got to try and make everything interesting for these guys, which I don't owe them anything. And when you watch this episode, fellas, I owe you nothing. But I do it. It's a pride-swallowing siege of a job, thankless job, but I try to do it. Do you have any cool ideas that do you do anything specific or fun to decide draft order?
Yeah, I mean, we don't for our league. We, it's reverse of last year. It's a keeper league. It's not a dynasty. It's not a redraft. It's keeper. So we keep like 4 players. But I have plenty for this. There's a site called 100yardrush.com that makes a bunch of fake players, and they do a race, and you can have each one of your people do a race, and you can like be the person, and you can watch it on like a big screen and watch them race across, and you're sitting there cheering. You can put it on the slowest possible setting so that it takes like 5 minutes to complete as you're just cheering for these little guys running across the board. You can 100yardrush.com. There's also like you can do a little bracket Madden tournament or NBA 2K tournament or whatever you do for that. You can do a Smash Brothers tournament. You can do those. The Kentucky Derby is earlier in that year. You can have Kentucky Derby horses, March Madness bracket pool to decide order. You can have a tournament like we have the full day thing. You can have a tournament of just like cornhole or bags or whatever you call them where you're from, or ladder ball or whatever. Just have a tournament of that in your backyard with everyone there to decide draft order, nice bracket for it or whatever. There's lots of stuff you can do out there.
That's awesome. You mentioned the Kentucky Derby. We've done that 2 years in a row now. Mm-hmm. And the first year we did it, I always do, because it's a 12-man league, the final 12, like the bottom 12 horses, right? Uh-huh. So that way you don't have to worry about the odds being too crazy. Put the names, have the guys pulled the name out. I pulled the name out of the horse that was 64-1 and won.
Wow.
And I was so pissed off, Scott, that I didn't put I was like, my good buddy of mine, Joey, said, let's put money on our horses. I'm like, nah, no big deal. He goes, you just don't want to do it because it's 64-1 odds. I'm like, I mean, I just don't want to, I just don't feel like just dropping $100 for no reason. And then the horse won, and I'm sitting there looking at the computer, and I can feel his stare right in the face. Because I'm like, oh my God, how does this happen? And there's always that one guy, which you probably, there's always one in a league that says, oh, this was rigged. Yeah, I rigged a 64-1. I promise you, I wouldn't be working to this day if I could rig something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm definitely going to check that out, man. The 100yardrush.com. That sounds awesome.
Yep.
I've got an idea for this year.
Okay.
That have you seen this? It's on Netflix. It's a movie called Eurovision.
Oh yeah.
Will Ferrell.
Yep.
Every year, my wife's from Greece, and she says that this is a real thing. What they show is a real thing.
Yep.
So every year they have that competition. So I was thinking about everybody drawing a name of a country, and whichever one goes furthest. And you got to watch it.
That's great.
It should be pretty fun.
You can do that with the Olympics too, I suppose, as another option for people. But yeah, that's great. That's great.
I tried it. I had a buddy who was saying, same guy. He was like, "Yeah, we can do a golden tee competition or something." I'm like, "Well, there are other guys who are way better at golden tee than most others."
Yes,
trying to keep it as neutral as possible.
That is the tough part every time. Yeah.
They have a thing where you can do like a Royal Rumble on like one of the video games or something, and just do like a Royal Rumble, play it through.
Yep.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
so,
that's great too.
Last question, my man, and then I know you've got some stuff to do. I appreciate you being on the show. I can't thank you enough. It's been a blast. Is there a call that you made last season? I'll tell you what, any season that you've been playing that you want to go and say, I told you so. What's your I told you so moment? Do you have one of those?
Weirdly, it might actually just be George Kittle. Like, I was so ridiculously, like, I have a bunch of, I've been in the industry 15 plus years. I have a bunch of amazing and terrible calls. They rack up, but just maybe it's just top of mind because we were talking about Kittle earlier, but I was all in on Kittle, like right away, all in. And I told all my friends to get all in on Kittle. And I've been thanked multiple times over the last couple of years for getting them a franchise dynasty tight end because I was all in on Kittle coming out of Iowa there. But I have a few. I have some bad ones too. It happens. I was all in on Arian Foster after his end of the season that one year. I was all in on Jimmy Graham the same way. He had a great end of the season and ended up being awesome. Eckler. I have Eckler everywhere. But I wish I could name some bad ones. I always feel weird mentioning the good hits. When I had at one point when I used to do a lot of Devy work, I had Laquan Treadwell as my number one wide receiver for a long time. I loved Ajayi. Thought he was going to be the next big thing in the NFL, and he had a few 200-yard games. He had some, but just the knees didn't. But that ended up being a very bad call.
I remember those 200-yard games, those back-to-back joints. I was like, man, missed out on this guy. I was preaching for Kenny Galladay. That's one of my real bad ones. Yeah. And I don't, to be honest, I don't think it's a terrible, because Kenny Galladay still has the skills. He just has to stay on the field.
I was all in and on. I loved him too. So I got one. My 1995 rookie draft. My home league started as a dynasty league in 92. It's a keeper now. But my 1995 rookie draft, I got up and proclaimed that JJ Stokes out of UCLA was going to be the next Jerry Rice. That might be my worst call. That's before my Atlas days though. So
there you go. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, that's what you got. That was Scott Fish made a call for Stokes. And that's okay. That's the thing about fantasy football that I love, is that it's so much luck involved, and you can look into things and you can make calls and things that you believe. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Just people out there, relax. It's supposed to be fun. That's the main thing.
Yes.
It's just like some people who get pissed off at a player for getting hurt. It's not their fault. Leave it alone. We're people.
Yep.
But yeah, I made the call for Darren Waller. I remember seeing
Oh, nice.
I remember seeing him on an interview, and I was like, this guy is going to be huge with the Raiders. And friend of the show, Darren Waller, great person, amazing story.
That's
Ended
awesome.
up just blowing up. So yeah, that was one of the good ones that I made. I got him dead last in the league that he started for whenever he started for the Raiders. So yeah, that was a pretty good one. But yeah, I've had plenty of bad ones too. But man, Scott, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. This has been an absolute blast. I could talk about fantasy football all day, but I know you've got things to do. I've got to get to work. So thank you so much for being on the show, my friend. I very greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. This is one of the most fun shows I've done in a while.
Love to hear it. That's what I like to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us. Scott, tell everybody, I'm sure everybody who's watching this already knows exactly where to find you, but if you could give them a little insight of where to go if they want to read up a little bit more about Scott Fish.
Honestly, just Scott Fish 24 on Twitter. That's where you can find just about anything about me. I'll tweet about it, or it's in my bio or whatever.
There you go. All right, Scott, thanks so much, buddy. You have a good day.
Thanks. Yep.